All right. So listen, I just want to jump in and say that we were talking just like we were just doing. And you had so many good stories and you started telling me these good stories. And I was like, what is going on? We got to stop. I got to hit record. So here we are. Chris Anderson. What's up, dude?
Not much. How are you, Billy?
Doing good. So you know what? I have an agenda here. I want to go through a bunch of stuff. Obviously, I want to talk about the snowball classic, how the everything went, the weather, talk about some silly things there, the results. Um, just so many things. I want to talk about 2023 AOI because that was cool.
I
Spoiler alert,
was.
it was you. Um, Before that though, you got a hat in the background, and you were telling me that it was from your grandparents, and
My
then
grandfather. Both of the
okay,
hats in the background are from my grandfather. The first one actually has a lure stuck inside of it.
nice.
This was my grandfather was a smaller man than me, and this one doesn't really fit. But this was the hat that he fished in all the time. And then the second one was for my grandpa Anderson, and it's an old school, probably from the '70s South Bend
Yeah.
hat, and I've got them in the office. My wife doesn't let me keep any of the fishing trophies. I get a very small window, so when I've got a big check on the back on the other side of my office. I'm still at work, or it makes the most sense to do this at work, and I got a big check there. I got that in 21 at the Paddle and Fin, the Dale Hollow Open. We got that there, and I was allowed to put it on the mantle for 2 weeks, and then I
That's,
had to get rid
yeah,
of it.
that's not bad. 2 weeks isn't bad. So
Yeah,
so Paddle and Fin, they did like the printed, like the foam board check that they give you.
correct. Yeah, they
Yeah.
look like they're probably, if I was guessing, 30 inches by 30 by, or maybe, yeah, probably 24 by 36.
Okay.
It's the big check.
Yeah.
The one that's on the wall, I didn't put the one up for the sixth place in the open tournament that I got for $125. I put the team tournament. So actually, Cincinnati kayak fishing in Dale Hollow in April of 21, the team was myself, Mike Grimsley, and Chris Yauk. And the last day, it was a 2 day open tournament, and then the last day was a team tournament. And there wasn't quite as many people, I think, as they were expecting to be there, but I want to say there was roughly 10 teams. Probably was the best, one of the best days, well, top 2 days of fishing in my life on the team tournament. Um, we ended up with 2.5 times the inches of any other team.
Oh wow. So it was three people.
3 people,
Yeah.
five fish limit, total of 15 inches or 15 fish for potentially 15 fish. Each team member had up to 5 that they could put in.
Oh.
And we started off at a place that none of us fished during the actual open tournament. And we went there. We all fished at the same spot. We put in. I picked up two 18-inch fish in the first hour and a half. And I was like, this is going to be a pretty good day. And I get a phone call from Grimsley at about 11, and he says, "Hey," he's like, I found a pattern." And I was like, "Nice." I said, "What?" He's like, I'm on him. I was like, "Well, does anybody have?" I think that time I still had one to call out. I was like, "Does anybody have 88 inches beat?" And he's like, "No." "Who's got 88 inches?" And I was like, "I do." And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm throwing a DT6 in about 7 feet of water." He's like, "You bumping it against the bottom?" I was like, "No, I'm just swimming it." He goes, "That's stupid." And he hangs up on me.
Ah. Oh.
I think I ended up picking up like a 19 or a 19 and a half, called up and got to 90, it was maybe 92 and a half inches. And I think I beat the second place team by myself by half an inch.
Oh my gosh. So 15 fish limit. You beat second place with 5 fish.
Yeah, we beat the
Yeah.
second place. We beat the second place team
Yeah.
by myself.
Yeah. That's funny. So we don't. I said this with Grimsley, and I'm kind of only kidding because I'm really just making fun of me when I say it. But if you came to this podcast to learn how to fish, you might be in the wrong place. But I want to, like, I don't know, man. I want to talk about that a little bit more. So DT6. So DT dives to 6 feet. You're down 6 feet and you're not hitting the bottom. So you're at like 7 feet of water. Um,
Seven, I mean, between six, I throw heavier line on all my stuff. Like
yeah.
all my casting rods have 30-inch or 30-pound Power Pro, just the standard green moss, and I have a 15-pound Seagar InvisX leader, and I throw that on everything because
Okay.
I want everything to kind of throw the same. I don't finesse stuff out on my spinning rods. I go a little bit smaller. I go 20-pound to, depending on the clarity of the water, either 15 or 8. And people kind of get blown away if you're throwing a 15. We fish most of the time in Southwest Ohio, especially with Cincinnati kayak fishing. We don't have a clear lake around us. We don't have a lake, I think, that we fish any point in the year where a fish is going to notice the difference between 8 and 15.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm going to throw that, and I know how those baits fall with that, and it just works. So yeah, I was swimming the Demon Color DT6 and picking up fish with it, and it worked actually that entire tournament, not just that day, but worked that entire tournament. And at the Snowball Classic last weekend, I threw a DT8 and I did not get touched by anything. I might have 4 fish caught on a DT anything since that tournament. It
But
hit that day,
yeah. But
and
how many did you buy since that day?
oh, at least, I can't, if my wife watches this, I bought 2.
Yes.
If for everyone else, we know that there's probably a rule of 6. I probably have 6, well, times 6. I've probably got 12 in that color for that size. I've got way too many baits.
And what is the for the YouTube video here? I'll probably put it up on the screen, but for anyone listening, like what is the demon? What does that look like?
It's a red. It's red and black, and I've never had luck on any other red lures. I don't throw. I think I own a couple jackhammers in that fire crawl.
Yeah, the fire.
I've never caught anything on those. I've got red lipless. I don't think I've ever caught a fish on a lipless, ever. But I don't throw it. But it's a red. It's that red color, and it's got a little bit of purple flash that comes up on the belly with a
Okay.
black back.
Yeah. Well, man, that's pretty cool. And then I've never been down there. You said Dale Hollow, right?
Yep,
Yeah, I've never been down there. So what is that? Not to go off track, but why not? Tell me a little bit about that lake.
it's big, and that was the most daunting part of it for me, is that you look at it and you don't, if you make the wrong decision out of the gate, you got to fish through it. Except for Mike will pick up his stuff. I got another great story that I'll share about about day 2 of that tournament with Mike. But we went to, I think we pre-fished 2 or 3 places, and I got a couple bites in the second place, and we all fished. We fished there day 1. I went back day 2, and day 1 I caught a 5 fish limit in probably an area that was 30 square yards in the first hour. Now I only had one upgrade since, and it put me in second place for the tournament on day 1, all throwing a demon, and it was great. It was a mixed bag. DT6. It was a mixed bag of smallmouth and largemouth in that area, so that was really cool. But Dale Hollow is a big lake, and it's got more, for what we deal with around here, is like shear walls, where you've got shoreline that goes to 18 feet deep, 4 feet off the wall. And for me, it was finding the places where there was a little bit of a ledge, a little bit of a shelf, where that drop off at that point in time of the year in April wasn't so steep, and I could find that. I found fish throughout that tournament in 5 to 8 feet of water, and it was finding that. And I don't know if I could do it again if I went down there. I think it was just one of those magic trips where what you were trying works. But it was a big body of water, and it was the only time, one of the few times I've ever been in my kayak and I got a little antsy because it was still pretty cold in April. And, I looked down at my graph and it's 125 foot deep. Now you can drown in a foot of water just as well as you can in 125, but I'd never seen that on my fish finder before. And it just was a little bit daunting, but I just ended up fishing what I knew how to fish. Now, I think we heard a tip that color or similar colors to that with crankbaits are a good bite, but most of the time it was in the evening. And I caught fish on a wacky rig. I caught fish on a Tokyo rig, and uh, and which probably should have been throwing a swim bait, but I'm not a real swim bait thrower. Um, and it was kind of like the first time where I went to a body of water. I saw what looked fishy. I did some map study a little bit, not a ton, but what made sense. And I just rode it out until I got the bite, and then it repeated. And then the confidence started to build. And 90% of what we do is confidence. If you've got
Oh, yeah.
confidence in what you're doing, the fish know it, and they bite. It seems like, and when you're searching for that bite and you're spinning out, um, on tilt, there's no way that you're gonna fish the way that you have the capability of doing.
Yeah. And you said this was your second favorite. What was the first?
Just that was kind of my coming out party. It was one of my top two favorite
Oh,
fishing trips.
oh, got it.
Yeah, but team tournament, I mean, that's one thing I really want to do. I mean, I'm super excited about OKF starting and the opportunities that we're going to have there. But I've always wanted to do a team tournament, or team tournaments, or even a club tournament. It's CKF versus Kano or BKA, and we all get together,
Yeah.
and there's 5 guys on a team, 25 fish limit, and you're going at it. I think that would be so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a lot of fun. It would be, and Ohio's not that big, but we're kind of spread out all of those, Northeast Ohio to Cincinnati. And I know everyone listening to this understands how big Ohio is, but it's like if you're gonna go from Cincinnati to Cleveland, it's gonna take you all day to get there.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big state. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and bring it back to the snowball classic, because this is should have been, I think, the fourth year, maybe, but last year was canceled for good reason,
Yep.
safety, high wind and all that. So this year was on CJ Brown, was it December 2nd?
December
3rd?
2nd.
Yeah, the second. And yeah, the water temperature was like 42, 43 degrees, something like that. How much how much did the air temperature and water temperature kind of play into your strategy going into it?
I didn't have much of a strategy going into it. My Over the last 2 years, I really started focusing on jig fishing. So I throw a jig. I would say out of my 8 rods that I carry in the boat, I throw a jig on. I've got 2 of them tied on at all times. I'm that committed to it, and I couldn't catch a jig bite. I think it was more so because the water level was down, but you know, I couldn't catch a fish on a jig. I did catch one early on a jig, but it wasn't what we were looking for. But with the water being down, some of that stuff that you would typically fish, even if it was a little bit, a little bit with the temperatures, just wasn't hitting. So you were kind of focused, and I know that the fish that were caught, I don't know where Brent's was, what that depth was, but Mike and I caught fish at about the same depth, and it was between 12 and 15 feet, which is a little bit deeper um, than where my normal comfortability level of fishing that deep is. I'm just not super strong at that. I'm about 12 feet and up rather than the opposite side. But I knew it was going to be slow. I was hoping that there was going to be, with the colds, I think the cold snap that we got earlier in the week where it got nasty cold for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Um, I think that put them into a little bit of a funk. But I was hoping for a blade bait bite, because that's a fun bite when you can get a blade bait, because there's nothing there and you're yo-yoing it, and all of a sudden the rod will get jerked out of your hands. And it could be jerked out of your hands with a 13-inch fish just because it's there and you're not expecting it. But I couldn't catch that. And I think that it was a grind, and it was just finding offshore that deep cover, wood piles, brush piles, and presenting something slow enough at the right time. Because I want to say, I don't know when Brent caught his, but Mike and I didn't catch ours, and Maya caught both my fish in the last 10 minutes of the tournament, right at
Yeah.
the boat dock or right at the ramp, and Mike caught his about an hour and a half, 2 hours before that.
Yeah. And
So
yeah, I was already out. I can at least says never give up. My strategy is sometimes give up. I took my boat out and I was loaded up and I circled around to pick up my kayak. I look over and I see you grab your net right off the boat ramp. You grab your net and you're scooping up a fish. And I was like, huh, maybe, maybe I should never give up. Um,
well, the morning bite was important on Saturday. How'd that morning bite work for you?
well, I know what you're saying. So, so I slept in. I went back and I tried to look. I'll just round it to an even number, almost 100 Tourney X tournaments for me. And I don't think it's quite at 100, but we'll just whatever, make it easy math. I've never overslept. I've never missed a lines in for a tournament. But the Snowball Classic, if you're gonna miss one, that was the one to miss because 11 a.m. I was on the water. There were zero fish on the board with 19 anglers, zero fish on the board. So, also, all kidding aside, seriously, never give up. I knew when I took out, I knew that I was potentially like not going to catch a fish. I've heard so many times someone will catch a fish, win the tournament, get that last minute call or whatever. So it's all kidding aside, it's kind of a reminder to me, that I mean, in hindsight, I was right there. I was fishing where you were fishing at the end of the
Mhm.
day. So I should have stayed, and then I'm throwing something different. You're on a brush pile. I'm throwing into like the middle of nowhere. Talk to me a little bit about that. I know there's fish attractors out on CJ Brown, and
That's what I caught. Mike caught his on a brush pile and a big piece of timber. I caught mine on a fish attractor, and I found it not by being awesome with electronics. Um, when we launched, I was a little bit late on the launch. I think it was only about 5 minutes after lines in, but I wasn't flying to get out there. Um, and I went to talk to my buddy Jim Thacker just to see what was going on. Very few people would I cast this close, start casting next to, but you got to have that kind of relationship with the guy. And we were kind of talking about potentially going down to the Harris chain for the Hobie BOS in January. And in my first cast, I was throwing a jig. My first cast, I was like, I think I just got thumped. And then I cast it back. What I thought what I was trying to do was a similar spot, right in the same spot. And it was a terrible cast. And it was probably 12 feet to the side. I brought it back through. I got the same thump. I set the hook, and I thought, man, this is a monster. And it was. It was just a monster muskie.
oh,
And I got him
what
up.
time is that?
I caught that muskie within the first 15 minutes of the tournament, probably
Oh,
7:45. So I was like, this is gonna be a great day. But I wore, with the spirit of the Snowball Classic and the holidays. My favorite movie and my holiday movie is Four Christmases. So there's a scene in that with Vince Vaughn where he dresses up as Joseph, and I went to try to dress up as Joseph. So actually, when the air temperatures were 51 degrees when we started, I was wearing a beard, a fake beard, a wig, and it was supposed to be like a Joseph robe. But when you're size triple X, or on your best day, that's not readily available the night before. So it ended up being a toga, and I kind of looked like, I was told by somebody that I looked like somebody that escaped from a mental ward, or I think there was an episode where like Homer Simpson wears a moo for a while.
Okay.
And I didn't have any like long sleeves underneath it, didn't have any pants on. I was fishing essentially in a Capples or a Party Source toga. And I caught that. I caught it. I got it in the net, and it just kept spinning in the net. And when I was trying to get it out of the net and release it, because I wanted to get it back in the water as quickly as I could, I sideswiped something, and I hit the fish attractor when I was taking that fit that I ended up catching the fish on later in the day. I hit it when I was taking that off when I was taking the hook out of that muskie, and that's how I found it. It wasn't like I know
Wow.
what I'm doing with my electronics. It was
You
just
hit it.
dumb
You
luck.
hit it with your
My,
kayak.
my boat, and it rocked me.
Oh
It made me
wow.
pretty nervous. It was under
Okay.
the water. You could probably 6 inches under the water. The visibility wasn't great. You couldn't see it, but that's how I found the fish attractor that I ended up catching my two fish at the end of the day on.
I love that. How many muskie have you caught?
In a kayak or
Oh,
in general?
not just like ever.
Three.
Okay.
I've hooked three. I've brought two to the boat. I hooked
Okay.
one last year at Cave Run on a uh, on a 4-inch yum dinger in morning dawn.
Okay.
And I think I was fishing with Mike. We were pre-fishing together, and he's got video of it, and it ended up breaking me off. But this one was like perfect hook set, right in the top of the mouth. There was no, I mean, the fight was, it bulldog twice, and I was able to get it in the net pretty quick.
Nice.
So, and I caught another one at fishing with my buddy Jared McComas at Caesar's Creek last year.
Okay. And were you bass fishing or you were
Yep,
after muskie?
bass
Okay.
fishing. I was before the TOC got changed from Caesars. It was supposed to be at Caesars, and myself included, and some of the other people were like, "We really want to do the TOC here." And the voices and great thing about CKF is they put it up to a vote, and it got moved. But I was pre-fishing, and that was the only bite that I got all day, and that was out of a bass boat. So we were moving, hitting different spots. It wasn't like we were locked into anything in the lake.
Yeah. Man, I couple things I want to say about that. One thing I do love that Brian Tacey, the voting, whatever the survey. And
Mm-hmm.
I was when I agreed to, come on and help out with podcasting and stuff like that. I went down to the meeting where you guys talked about like rules and lake choices and all that. And he brings it up. It's not just like the survey is like something to make people feel good or whatever. It was brought up. Like all of that is taken into consideration. So I really love that where the angler's voice can be heard. I think when people maybe when they don't think their voice is heard, they can become a little disgruntled during the year, and then they just go to another trail or they go somewhere else, and you don't know. So I love that they do that. And then the other thing I was going to say, is that I've gone muskie fishing probably 5 or 6 times, like on purpose, and I've only caught one muskie. So whenever
Not
I go,
where'd you catch it?
I caught it in a creek. Yep, Allen Creek.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
yeah, and then I hooked one at CJ Brown maybe a month and a half ago, but I didn't land it. So keep an eye out for Billy Kayak's YouTube channel. I struggled a little bit, like, am I going to release it or not? Because it's a video where I didn't catch fish. So who wants to watch, an hour video? No one. Who wants to watch a 20 minute? I was like, all right, I'll make a 6 minute video of me not catching a fish. And it's mostly just me like talking to myself. So, which could be entertaining. Did you record? Do you record? And did you record Saturday?
No, I don't. I've thought about getting into it this upcoming year, and I've got a lot of fears of that. One is heavy breathing. I,
Okay.
I want to get one of the ones that's way in my back so they can't hear me huffing and puffing where I'm heavy breathing. As I've got a motor, I've got a torpedo on the back of mine, so there's really no reason why I should be. But then talking to myself, it's either going to be hysterical or it's just going to be like sad.
Well,
I
yeah.
haven't decided. What's your take on that? Watching your own videos as you make those.
Well, it's if you want to get better at, a lot of people will say like, "Oh, I don't like the sound of my voice," or "I say this," or "I do that," or whatever. And for me, you can make adjustments. The number one thing is you get used to it. So the sound of my own voice now sounds like it's like a good friend of mine. You know, Billy's a good friend of mine, and I just know the sound of his voice. So when I hear it, it doesn't sound weird anymore. The actual recording part, yeah, sometimes, especially in the beginning, it's not good. You watch it and you're
I
like, what?
think
That's me? Is that what I do?
I think it would be great. And you said that nobody wants to watch a video of people not catching fish or somebody not catching fish, and probably at an hour. But kind of going back to some of the grassroots stuff and some of the new people that get out, and Cincinnati kayak fishing really tries to focus on that grassroots is. I can guarantee you on every event, I'm going to reach back and I'm going to cast and I'm going to catch myself. I'm going to catch one of the rods that are in the back of my boat, and if that keeps you from doing a kayak tournament or getting more involved with it, seeing somebody like yourself or myself do that, I hooked 2 blade baits in my tow line at the big in the CJ Brown tournament. So I'm like trying to lean forward and cut off to keep as much leader line as I could. And I had 2 blade baits that are still in my tow rope on the front of my kayak. And it's, if those are the things that people that keep people from, those embarrassing moments or what you think is embarrassing, every one of us, you've got close to 100 tournaments in Tourney X or under your belt. I think I'm somewhere in the 70s, and I do it every time. Every time I'm out, there's something where I just look at it and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? And then I realize I do it every time, and everybody does it. So just come out, have fun, because everybody has done and is going to do what you're nervous about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And the also when you said you have 70 some, I'm like, if I look it up, that's probably what I have too. But whatever, I rounded up. You know, Melissa with Girl Going Fishing, and then Brian Slayton, Creek Crawler, they'll go out and they'll record, they're telling a story. So no, I don't know. That's my, I guess, advice to people. Like, no one wants to see caught a fish, caught a fish, caught a fish. It's no, it's the story. So yeah. Well, I hope you do it. I
Yeah,
hope you get a camera and start recording. That'd be cool.
yeah. I think that's hopefully Santa Claus brings that. I think that's going to happen for next year.
Speaking of Santa Claus, Brian Tacey, he did, I don't know why I made him Santa Claus. He did like photography when we were out there. So they had like a little bass boat zipping around the lake, and he's been doing that for a while, right?
Yeah. With the baby this last season, he wasn't able to get out as much as he has on other ones. He always makes it out for the TOC, and there's we'll call it the media boat. The media boat's out there, and he's got the equipment, and he's got an eye, like, and Melissa's got a great eye too. Like some of those people can just see. There's a couple great photos that they got put on canvas from the Tournament of Champions this year. Not so flattering necessarily, but I guess apparently my body type is never flattering. but but like some people that can see that there's a picture of Skidmore, and I've never in my life seen anyone as focused as he was in this photo, and just be able to catch that at the right time and have that. I've got some severe ADHD, or I probably just the regular DD. I don't have the hyper part, but I can't focus on anything but like seeing that, and like seeing that photo. And it might be the one that's on OKF or similar to that, where he's in some pads, and you're like, man, that guy's zeroed in. And there's other photos of Mike actually hooked up or potentially with a snag. I don't know if I don't know. There was a photo that's coming up, and his rod's doubled over, but I don't know if it was a fish or a snag. But just to have that, and then to see that, then they get it blown up and it's at the shop, and you're like, how cool is this? It's just another layer of what Brian gives to the community,
Yeah.
with his time, and a hobby as well for them. But it's awesome.
Yeah, and I know like with a lot of these cameras, you're looking at the quality of the camera and the lens, and because we all have like cool photos that we take with our cell phone or whatever. But when you talk about being on canvas or being blown up, that's when you really see, that's when it becomes really impressive with the work that he's doing. And then when we're out in our kayaks, because I went out with the best of intentions, like, oh, I'm going to take my camera, I'm going to get a photo of my buddy, I'm going to get a picture of that. And I think as anglers, kayak anglers, we see the stuff, and I think we do, like, anyway, I appreciate it. I see a big buck cross the creek in front of me. I see a bald
Yep.
eagle flying down there. Like, I soak it in. I love every minute of it. But when you're saying like Brian gets that photo of, Skidmore being like focused, he's he's capturing what we all have seen, but he's capturing it for everyone else. Maybe there's only
Yeah.
30 people signed up for the tournament, but everyone else can go back and see that. So yeah, I love it. I hope he keeps doing that. I know Melissa's been on the media boat before. I would love to do it, especially if it means we can convince Brian to buy more camera gear, and then we just use the gear that, I'm just kidding, not kidding. All right, but I do want to ask you something else. Did you hear the boat? Like,
Yeah. I think they were probably paying attention to avionics. That wasn't updated with the drawdown.
yeah,
I didn't hear it, but I heard of it, and it was, given that that was the maiden voyage of the boat, to my knowledge,
yeah,
the ability to smile and laugh about that. If he was crying on the inside, you couldn't tell.
yeah, he did a
You
great job.
couldn't tell,
Yeah,
and it was, I mean, such a great sport about it. Laughed at it, laughed about it, and it's part of what we do. Like if you're out there in a boat in a kayak, how often are you? You know, I break rods, and hopefully not on the first trip,
yeah,
but it was tough. Like you couldn't, if something was in that water and normally wouldn't be an issue, you could have. I could see how you did it. There was a couple times, and I said I don't. I've got a motor, so I only take two forms of propulsion with me. I don't have that oh no third, so I didn't have a paddle, and I wasn't paying attention, and I ran aground, and then I ended up having to put my net on the gravel and push myself out for a good 10 minutes.
yeah. I did the same thing, and I think it might have been in the same, because I was out there on the main lake point where you were. It came out a lot further than I thought,
Yeah.
and I was too close to shore, maybe 30, 40 yards off the bank, and I was still too close. And I ran into like maybe a foot and a half, and I had to trim up my motor a little bit. A little bit easier in a kayak with the Torpedo. I just grab the line and
Pull it up.
I just hold it up a little bit while the throttle's still going, and then kind of get me out of there. But yeah, in a boat, it was loud. I heard it. I didn't see it, but I heard it. So it was definitely someone just, and you're right, he did a great back in the major, and he smiled about it and said, hey, it's out of the way. I got that out of the way. So
Yeah.
yeah. Does he have a kayak too?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I
So
believe so, but I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, I just want to know who to watch out for when I'm just kidding. I don't want to, no, I think he had like a knee injury or something like that, and he wasn't out there. But I probably made it up. Again, don't listen to anything that I say. Maybe we should have started with this 2023 Angler of the Year for Cincinnati Kayak Fishing. Before that, like, how did you get into kayak fishing? Like, where did it all start? How long have you been doing this?
I bought my first kayak, and then there was a good long break. But I bought my first kayak in 2006, 2007. I was in much better shape. I was only 4 or 5 years out of playing college football, and I thought I was in good shape. I moved from Cincinnati as a construction superintendent to Houston, and I bought an ocean kayak spec from Academy. That was where I learned that buy once, cry once. because I think I paid $299 for that from Academy, and I couldn't sit in it for half an hour without having to get. There's no way you could stand up, but this was like complete roto molded down where you had no real seat that didn't sit up. The technology since then to what I'm fishing out of a PA 360 now is unbelievable in the comfort. So I was fishing in and around Galveston, and what I would do is I would go down and I would fish the bays um, on like a Saturday morning, and then I would go to a pier and actually catch the fish from the lights off the pier. Uh, and Saturday night, if I didn't have any success in the kayak, which was rare down there. And I knew that I liked it. I knew that I wanted to fish out of a kayak, but buying that and owning it for a year and a half and only fishing out of it for 24 hours total because I'd get out and wade because it was that uncomfortable. Had me upgrade. So I think I've had one, two. I'm on my fifth boat. I'm on my fifth boat now. So I went from an ocean kayak spec, which is the equivalent of anything that the cheapest model that you can get at Dick's or even Walmart now, to a Wilderness Systems Ride 115, and that was a wider boat. And I mostly did, like, for the first, when I got back to Cincinnati, I mostly fished rivers because I really didn't think about lakes and I wanted to catch smallmouth. So I would just put in the Little Miami, anywhere from, in the Loveland area, and I'd fish down to Milford because I lived in Milford, and then upgraded to a Jackson big rig. I still have that boat, and if I'm gonna just shallow water river fish, I'll fish out of that. And then I bought I guess I had six. I bought a big rig FD, and it was an ultimate failure for me. It just, as much as I like the original, that one didn't work. And then I got a PA 180, and this last season, I was my first year out of the PA 360. So that's how I got into kayak fishing, was starting. And I moved to Houston. I didn't know a soul. And I'd never been there. So I packed up my stuff at my house, packed up my truck, and drove down there. And actually, the same way with how I've met most of my best friends now, the people that I talk to more than anybody else, I started fishing. And that was how I made friends and had acquaintances outside of work and had something to do outside of work.
Wow, that's I love that. I want to ask you a little bit more about the football because I want to know where you played football. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about these kayak cushions because we do have, what is that? I had to center it for people watching. We do have some cool sponsors for 2024, and Kayak Cushion is one of them. And we are giving away one of these. Are you in on the drawing? The giveaway?
I did not know.
We're giving away one of
we
these.
could
So
we could cut with the color.
it can
I
be
don't know if there's like a secret word.
there is a secret word. It was released on the first podcast that we did with Grimsley, and you can get any color you want, or any color available. The one that I just showed was obviously orange because who dey, go Bengals. And yeah, we're giving away one of those for CKF from Strictly Sale. Hook 'em horns. He held up a Texas cup. So if you haven't watched or listened to the first podcast, there may be time still. I don't know. Depends how long you waited to listen. There may still be time to go back and listen to that one, find the secret word, and follow the instructions and win you a kayak cushion from Strictly Sale. So thank you so much to Strictly Sale and to Kayak Cushion for such a great product. They made adjustments. So it used to be they had one strap that went around the side, and then he listened to people, and a lot of companies don't do that. And then he made another strap that goes the other way. So it's kind of like a plus sign if you want to think about it that way. The kayak cushion used to slide back on you. Now it doesn't do it. It's completely attached to your seat. So cool. I can't imagine not having a kayak cushion. You don't have to go waiting like you did back when you had to get out of the kayak. Maybe you could have stayed in the kayak a little bit longer. Yeah.
That the kayak cushion would have been better than the seat tenfold
Yeah.
itself, just to have that and even no back. But yeah,
Yeah.
my wife saw those and she made a comment. She's like, even it was on, I think it was on Facebook or something, and she's like, "Oh, that would be nice for my kayak," because she'll go out with me occasionally in the wilderness system. She's like, "You need to get one of those." And my response was, "I have three."
Yeah. Well, true story. I didn't know what we were going to do with the kayak cushion for the podcast, but I have five. So I brought them all on here. So anyone watching, you got to see my five. So I have the original one and then a bunch of them. They're all orange and black. So but that's enough about that. And thank you to Kayak Cushion. Where did you play football?
I played for football for 5 years at, I don't know if you can see it back there, University of Dayton.
I do. I saw the Flyers helmet in the background. So you took it home with you?
We you were gifted that after your graduation. You got to take that home. So um
So is that a helmet that you actually wore that helmet?
yeah, that's game worn. If you can see the stuff and some of
Oh yeah.
the damage to the head, it explains a ton if you ever talk to me. But this is game worn mouthpiece.
Nice.
Still,
It still fits.
that's gross.
That was gross.
That was really gross.
No, it's fun. The so I know with the Buckeyes, they'll do the little Buckeyes. Did those stars? Is that part of the helmet, or did you
No,
make them?
that was something. Yeah, I was never a big fan of them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So most of the time I didn't put them on there. I think those were from my locker.
Okay.
That still had some stick on it at the end of them. I was slightly better than a 2-star player when I played there, but not much.
And I just meant like did you get the stars for like an achievement
Yeah,
of some?
it
So you,
was it was
I get
there was team goals and individual goals. I think you had
yeah.
you know, if you got a sack, you got one, or if the defense held the opposing team to under 120 rushing yards, the defense got one.
Also defense. I thought you weren't a quarterback.
No,
No.
no,
Okay. What'd you play?
nose tackle.
Okay, there you go. Man,
So the athletic big guys, not the offensive line, but the athletic big guys.
man, I love my Bengals jersey that I wear every I was gonna say every Sunday, but I wore it last night for Monday Night Football. I have a 94 Sam Hubbard. I love the end rushers. I love defense and I love the end rushers. And obviously he's from Ohio and then Ohio State. And now
Yep,
he's
and he's a Cincinnati kid.
yes,
Was he Saint X or Moeller?
Moeller.
He was a Moeller kid.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, defense is fun. You bought a bunch of kayaks, 6 kayaks later, you end up in a 360, PA 14, 360. What year?
23.
Okay. And I don't know why the year, but I was
Or
ask people like, hey, what,
maybe it was a 20. Maybe it was a. I bought it. It might be a 22 model, but I bought it in December of last year. So we're about our 1 year anniversary.
yeah. And I mean, it came out in 2020. So until this year, they have an update to the name of the drive, but I don't know what that means yet. Maybe we'll update everyone on this podcast on what the XR.
XR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really it's 2020 through 2023. Pretty much the same kayak for those 4 years. But last year you did it. Tell me about your AOY championship.
It was an unbelievable year. And a lot of it was right place, right time, and really just getting grinding through. I will sit at a spot where I know fish are supposed to be, or where fish should be, and I'll wait for the bite to turn on instead of jump spots. So, kind of an off air story that we kind of started with is my wife asked me 2.5 3 years ago. She's like, "What's it going to take?" Because she knew I wanted to be good, and you want to be good at anything you do. She's like, "What's it going to take? Like, what's the difference between, like I think it was right after Mike won the AOI, the inaugural kind of AOI. She's like, what's it going to take? And I said, a divorce, because I need to I need to put that much time into it. He's got more time on the water. I don't necessarily want to be miss out on the weekends. And my wife's amazing. Thank you so much, Annie. You give me time to go to my church and recharge my batteries and be with my friends. And I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And my daughter Avery for allowing that. And last year, the family probably, I mean, I wouldn't say suffer, but there was times where I could have been with them that I was out fishing or pre-fishing. Um, so it was a great year. I started off, I missed the first tournament. When it got rescheduled, I ended up I do a trip every year with my daughter on her spring break because I'm a construction project manager, and I've got projects I've had them from Wisconsin to Florida to I'm almost in Mexico. I'm like, on Friday before the tournament, I was 6 miles from the border at 5 o'clock in the morning and flew back last Friday and was able to make it up to CJ Brown. But her and I went on our annual trip for the Rocky Fork, and I'm terrible at Rocky Fork anyway, so I was okay with that. And I just was able to fish my way, and it worked. Where it, nothing was super flashy. It was a lot of consistency, and it was a lot of just slowing down and knowing that eventually you're going to get bit if you're in the spots that you were. So I think the first tournament of the year that I was able to fish was Brookville. I caught a fish in the first half hour. I launched where Skidmore, who ended up crushing everybody at that tournament, launched. So I knew I was in the right place. And it's like always like good, at least at the beginning of the day, when you show up at the ramp and Skidmore's there, you're like, all right, I made the right choice. And I caught a fish early, but I caught it on a rock crawler, a Spro rock crawler. And then I was for sure that's the depth they were going to be at for the rest of the day. And I fished for like the next 5 hours in 12 feet of water instead of 4 feet of water where he was smashing them on a square bill. Made a late run, picked up 2 fish, and I either ended up with 3 or 4. Didn't even have a full limit, but I picked up maybe an 18-inch smallmouth, 17, 18-inch smallmouth within the last half hour of the tournament, and wound up in 6th. So again, it was like that don't ever give up, don't never give up. But I went there, kind of scrounged up some points more than anything, and then the rest of the year went well. One of the jokes that was said, I think Melissa, or I think it might have been Melissa. It was Melissa. She said on Saturday, she said, "Chris, where are all the fish?" And I was like, "They're at Cowan," because I do really. Where are all your fish? And I said they're at Cowan, and Cowan was great to me this year. I fished Cowan for the Cowan tournament. I fished it for the 24-hour tournament. I fished it for the MLF tournament, and I fished it for the in the TOC. And I ended up winning 2 of the 3 of those. And I really think a lot of the success for the actual Cowan tournament was the MLF style the week before or 2 weeks before, where I kind of dialed in a pattern where I thought they were going to be. The 24-hour tournament, I could have chased. I mean, I knew where a buddy was. We talked about going together. I knew I had an invite to go there up north. And he ended up, I think, finishing in the top 4. It was a great day for Mike up there. But I stuck to it, and I fished my lakes my way. And I think that was probably one of the most rewarding things is I didn't chase bigger waters. If you go to some of these bodies of water, like an MLF style at East West Harbor, when you smashed them the week before at another tournament up there, that you're going to be in good shape for that. And I sacrificed a couple of mid-tier finishes that were able to wash out when you took the best 5, but I was able to dial it in on those 2. So the AOI this year was crazy tight. If you look at the consistency between Sean and Jason, like there was a chance if I didn't end up at that Cincinnati Lakes tournament finishing in third, there was a chance that I wouldn't have been at my 5 tournaments that counted for it outside the top 8 in any that counted, and I would have been second.
Wow.
So there's some sticks. There's some real high end top talent that people don't realize, and consistent talent of people that we fish against. That if your lowest place was eighth, and with 2 wins in there, that you wouldn't finish first. That's crazy. But it was super tight at the top this year. Sean and Jason Myers. Jason was his first year in a kayak. We all got to watch out for that guy next year. Once he starts figuring out the geometry and just it's crazy how he was a bass boat fisherman for most of the time, and he just got into it this last year. But that he's an absolute stick, and he gives more advice than I could ever hope for.
Yeah, or maybe than he should. He's giving out. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He's giving.
Well, probably because to be honest, I ended up first in AOI points in the Flowing Waters tournament, and it was the spot that he turned me on to. But I think that's a testament of the people who we fish with and what we do as a group.
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you brought up the Flowing Waters, I did catch a 21-inch smallmouth and got big fish. But there's only been two CKF podcasts so far, and I mentioned it. I can't mention it again. That's not my style. It is my style to be silly, but not to brag about me. I had to leave a pause because I'm going to edit all that out. What?
I don't think you should edit it out. A 20-inch, the 21-inch smallmouth is worth every time that if you catch that, you can talk to it about like you shake somebody's hand at a boat ramp, like, hey, I got 21-inch smallmouth.
That's funny. What? I want to end it with this. Because I did promise you I wouldn't have you on here all night, and you're still at work. But what are you most looking forward to in 2024? Which lake or what experience are you looking forward to?
It's gonna sound weird, but I put a ton of pressure on myself to win. Like I decided I was going like it I needed to check off that AOI. I am excited to enjoy the year a little bit more than I did last year. I mean, at the end of last year, winning was great, but it also caused sleepless nights and IBS and not quite to a Skidmore level, but right up there with him. Emergency pit stops at the banks or at the portalet. But being able to stop and I'm still going to want to win. I'm still going to want to catch fish. I'm still going to want to do that. But the pressure's off, and I kind of want to be able to enjoy the moment a little bit more, and looking forward to enjoying the moment and maybe go to a couple bigger stage tournaments and see how I stack up there and maybe finding somebody who's in one of the tournaments that I wouldn't have talked to last year as much and spend as much time just bull crapping with because I was focused on catching fish and doing this, and spend a little bit more time talking to them and not so much time laser focused on it. And that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to. Or if there's a family event, maybe not feeling the pressure to pre-fish the week before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird to answer what am I looking forward to by not fishing as much or not fishing as hard, but that's what it is this year. This year is going to be a little bit more fun and enjoy myself and appreciate what we get to do.
I love that. I actually think that's a really cool answer. And I think a lot of us just want to enjoy it more, soak it in. I've always said no one in the world is more optimistic than a tournament angler 5 minutes before lines in. We all think this is the day. I'm gonna, but also I'll say that is a really special time. Whatever, you're sitting there, the sun's coming up, the birds, the cool water, and you're sitting there and you're not allowed to fish. It's like the tournament, the tournament gods have told us, no, you are not allowed to do anything for the next 10 minutes. You have to stare at the water and look at the birds and take this all in. And that's one of my favorite times of a tournament. So I love to hear you say you want to take it all in and enjoy it more. Not that you didn't enjoy winning AOY, because I'm sure you did when it was all said and
Absolutely, it was a
done.
blast.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. And I noticed you're wearing the uh, the the t-shirt. It looks like a Strictly Sail t-shirt. You don't work
It
it.
is
How many days a week do you wear a CKF or a Strictly Sail t-shirt?
oh, 7,
Yeah, I think we're all the same.
7,
So,
7 days a week.
yeah.
I probably have if Strictly Sail and Kayak T-shirts and Cincinnati Kayak T-shirts were currency, I'd be retired.
Okay.
I probably have I probably have 12, 12 total. So
Okay.
I love, I mean, the different colors.
They
I think
are.
I've got 5 different colors. I've got gray, 2 greens.
We got these. They're right here.
Yeah.
So we've got the green, a couple different colors of green, and then the pretty sure. Oh yeah, I have
Yeah.
one.
That's
That's the other one.
there's there's a darker like a slatey blue. That's a new, you'll have to get that one. And there's a gray one, but those are kind of OG. I only have one gray one,
Yeah.
but they're the most comfortable shirts in the daggone world.
And then
Eh,
I was at CJ Brown. I saw everyone wearing the hoodies. So they need to order some of those and make those available for sale, because I would buy one of those tomorrow. But they're not
I
available.
think I think just ask.
Oh yeah, I'll do that.
I mean, I don't know if they, you know, usually Brian and I share a size. So if they get 3 for Brian, I can usually get one and he gets 2. But but I think that one was $35 or $30 for that sweatshirt, and
Yeah.
it's as comfortable as the t-shirts are.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this up. But I know you've said a lot of really nice things about a lot of people, but is there anyone specifically you want to thank before we end this?
I mean, my wife is just she's an absolute rock star. She puts up with me every day, which is a lot. Um, my wife and my daughter are the foundation for everything, and they're kind of why I do everything that I do. I work a lot, but they also let me play a lot, and they're the best things that ever happened to me. And I'm forever grateful for them. And then on the fishing end, uh, my best friend Grimsley, we're kind of we stick out in a crowd, and it's not because of our bellies all the time, but he's helped me out more than I could ever. I think we fished the first year an East West Harbor tournament together. I didn't know anybody. We met through Facebook, and he's rigged my kayak, helped me rig my kayak, and he's kind of been the architect and engineer of what we're doing. That, and there's not a better person on the water that you'll find than Mike. Our filters aren't necessarily for everybody we're when we're on the water or not paying attention to what we're doing, but there's not a better guy on the water than Mike Grimsley.
Well, I love it, man. Thank you so much for sharing all your stories. Thank you again to Strictly Sail and Kayak. And this is the CKF podcast. Thanks, man. Have a great week.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.